Hello there everyone, Ragewood here, back with another Godforge video. And in the most recent podcast episode we had some massive news drop regarding the beta. Now, in the Tuesday video which Simon put out that same week in the Q&A, he did mention that a lot of our questions would be answered, but some of us, including the CCs, still have some. So I'm going to give my interpretation on those questions, and hopefully it'll provide some more clarity for everyone else out there. So without further ado, let's get into it. But I do have one favour to ask before we get into that. As you can see from the screen, the vast majority of you that watch my content are not subscribed to. If I could ask a massive favour, if you could click the subscribe button and ring the bell, I would very much appreciate it. Anyway, back to the video. So as usual, I will put the link to the full podcast in a pinned comment down below, so if you want to watch it without my spiel over the top, you are welcome to. Now, if you are watching it and you feel like perhaps it's a little bit scripted, I would agree to some extent. So a lot of the topics that they want to talk about today, it was probably quite important that they were covered. Now, Tim, or Ash, as he is better known as, is on the board, so they likely had a discussion to make sure that they included certain things. But don't let that take away from the information provided in the video, just because a couple of the questions seem planted. And one other thing that I'd like to add, please don't forget that this is just my opinion. I do not work for Fateless. I have no influence on their decisions, nor do I have any inside information on them either. Let's say this is just an interpretation of what I think will happen and why things are important from the information that's been given to us.
I guess we've been having a lot of internal discussions around what do we want the beta, or in reality, it's probably more like an alpha experience to feel like. And I guess what we originally planned was, here's a bunch of elements of the game, and you guys can jump in there, some of those elements that are pretty polished, and start to experience what the game's like. So that could be anything from, running the normal level of campaign, start to run some of the early level of dungeons, start to get that kind of like core loop of building your heroes and building teams. So really what we want to get from a beta is, what does the gameplay feel like? Has it got like a good feel to combat? Has it got a good feel to earning these different heroes, leveling them up, experiencing different team combinations, that type of stuff? So that's kind of what we were looking for. And we had some internal discussions this week. And really, this is kind of like dropping half the press, really, because we've got a different idea, which we think is going to be pretty cool. And I want to kind of chat it through with you guys. So we're thinking, why don't we go for more like a community challenge? So ultimately, it's like the same type of things we want to test. We still need to test those things, right? So, everything I've just said there is still really key for us to get feedback on. But if we had a tower, let's say it's got 100 to 200 levels, and it is a challenge for who in the community can get highest in their given time period during the beta. And within that, you still have different levels which will drop materials or heroes or gear or what have you, to enable you to continue to progress through the tower. But ultimately, it becomes like this challenge mode where, within a couple of weeks, it's like, who's going to get to the top and, basically, get themselves set in stone in terms of, the best beta players for Godforge.
Yeah, we have some things we probably, Dan may sneak in here and be like, hey guys, let's not talk about that right now. We've got some really interesting things about for the winners, or the people that are able to complete the tower and stuff like that. But
so that is our first piece of information. Now they are going to, part of the pivot that they've done is they are going to do a sort of tower mode of some description. Now it sounds like it's going to function very similarly to what a regular campaign would be, in that certain floors will drop gear, some floors might drop something else. I think he said heroes. The only thing that I imagine is likely going to be the same is the environment that we are in. Now, we'll listen later in the podcast. They mentioned that a lot of the dungeon bosses and heroes are done, but the polish is not. Now, don't forget, with those dungeon bosses, they also need an environment. That environment needs to be polished. Doing it this way allows us to still test the boss's mechanics, see what works, what doesn't work, what is good, without the added stress on the Fateless team to get the environment done as well. They can focus on just getting, I don't know, the demon done, get his abilities working fine, and we can still test everything against it and still give them time to work on everything else in the back end. So that's how I envisage it's going to be. Now, it's interesting that we're going to be able to almost farm level, 42 to get a certain gear piece. Now, whether that will work similar to a dungeon run normally, where if you defeat the boss, it will drop certain gear with random rolls. Again, that kind of thing, we don't know. I don't know. I can't imagine it will be random. I imagine it will be fixed. So rather than 6 gear pieces, floor 42 drops 1 gear piece, floor 43 drops another, just to make it easier, I imagine. But I'm not in indie game devs, so I have no idea whether that would actually be easier or not. But that's what I imagine it will be. Now, in reference to heroes, that is interesting as well. Now, whether it's going to be like a draft system, we don't know. Whether it's going to be shard pulling, that's really complex, and part of the reason they probably can't give any information to us on that is because even they don't know how it's going to work right now, but they obviously still want to offer that facility so we can test all the heroes that are there. You know, we're not there just to test the same 4. You know, they want to get feedback on everything. So whether it's a draft mode that resets every time, or whether you start with a core team and then you can pick other heroes as you go up, which is what I believe it will be. Yeah, it remains to be seen. I don't think it will be drafting from the start, because then some people might have an OP head start, especially if this is going to be a challenge with rewards at the end of it. You kind of want to keep it an as fair a playing field as possible, at least in those early stages. So that'll be interesting to see what they do with that as well. But yay for prizes. Merch, seems like an obvious choice, but it sounds like it might be a bit more than that, the way Sham sort of described it. So yeah, when we know, or when I know, I will share with you if us CCs are able to at any point. If not, I will find out with the rest of you.
There'll still be
cool.
that early progression of, the first levels are going to be very easy to beat, even if you've got no real experience in this type of game. And we're going to give you the tools in those first few levels to start to be able to empower the different heroes that you've got. You'll then be fighting your first mini boss, and it might be, okay, that mini boss is going to drop a hero for you. It might be an epic hero that comes into your squad and helps you to progress towards the next boss. So there'll be these kind of like mini bosses going into waves of enemies for different tower levels into a main boss, and then a kind of rotation up from there, really, with enhanced difficulty as you go. The need to perhaps go back and farm some of those earlier levels for more experience, or for more gear, or for more heroes, or to start to awaken some of those heroes that you've got to be able to strengthen your squad to be able to progress further over the next couple of days. So definitely you don't keep what you get, and that was going to be true
no
for
matter
what
what
we had planned anyway, because but what we was always thinking was anyone who's involved in this group, who's basically coming on, playtesting the game, giving us all that valuable feedback, and actually has been standing by us, honestly, for the last 18 months, 2 years, whilst we've been hard at work developing this game, starting to build the hype for us. We're going to reward those guys. So, and it will be a straight up, whoever does the best in the tower, because we'll have that ranked on a website, might even use hellhades.com, you never know. We'll have that ranked out, and it will be a case of, okay, well, whoever does best in the event will get some cool cosmetics, portraits, skins, that type of stuff.
And it goes down from there.
Everybody who participates, X amount of days during the event will get rewards for go live. So we'll be able to link those accounts back up to their live, or their emails up to their live, and it'll be like a nice drop of shards.
You'll be
energy
psyched.
and
You'll be
all
psyched
of this
when
type of
you
cool
get what
stuff.
you
Yeah, stuff that's going to give you a nice little head start, I guess, but not so crazy that other people that start playing the game think, Oh my
That's
God, I'm
always
miles
the
behind.
tough.
So we have a few big takeaways from that one. The first one that obviously sticks out to me and perhaps a few of you is that hhgaming.com is going to be entering the fray here because they want to keep track of the challenge mode, and I imagine it's going to be very similar to the Raid free-to-play challenge that we've just had. So I expect there to be some sort of optimizer built ready for it. They've obviously got all the data, they have easily access to it to get it implemented. It's just the time to implement it. And doing it that way will make it fair for everyone, no matter where you are in the world. For example, if it drops at 10 o'clock in the morning for me, my time, someone participating in the Asia region is just about to go to bed. So a nice fair way of doing it is measuring it by time in game or turn times. So having an optimizer allows them to easily measure that and display it. But they need to display it somewhere. Now, I've done my best to make a fun resource for the community, and I know Nick has done the same, but ultimately neither of us are web developers, and I don't have the knowledge or facility to be able to do that. Hellhades.com does. We've seen it with the Raid free-to-play challenge, so I know they wanted to promote others to take part and do things like that, but you know, this is obviously a massive marketing tool from them. They'd be silly not to join in the fray and promote Godforge and everything that's going to be great about it. And I fully support them. I will help any way that I can to make sure that Godforge is a success. And ultimately, I'm looking forward to it. Now, I stopped halfway after the first month in the Raid free-to-play challenge because I spent it on the wrong account. So I just put it to bed. But I am looking forward to, you know, fighting with fellow CCs, the Fateless team, the public. It's going to be great fun. I've even been talking about it with Mr. Sneaky this morning. So, yeah, it's going to be great fun. And, yeah, hellhades.com is entering the mix. And it's nice to see that we'll get rewarded as well. Sounds like whoever's going to finish top will get, you know, the biggest and best reward. Obviously, undecided what that is. Personally, when I win, I would quite like one of those figurines. I think that would have been kind of cool. But, you know, sounds like you might get some in-game stuff as well. Aether Stones, as we know that they're going to be called now. Could be a cool skin, could be a portrait. Cosmetics is an easy win because they don't want to give us too much of a head start over the wider public when they join. Which I get that. So having cosmetics is, you know, a cool way of flexing without giving you too much of a head start. But it sounds like we will get something in the form of shards or premium currency as well.
Experience the rest of the game as well, or will be mainly oriented to just this tower?
No, so we're thinking just this tower, and a couple of reasons actually. So we're thinking like we didn't really want to spoil all of our story, all of our cutscenes, all of the work that's going into that side. It's one of those things, once you've kind of played it and done it, certainly the initial campaign, the initial story, when you're then coming back through that in a couple of months' time,
it's not as special.
Oh, my dog's going crazy. It won't land the same, right? So we really didn't want to spoil that. And then we were thinking, well, maybe we just do 1 or 2 cutscenes to give you a flavor of what they would be like. But again, it feels so disruptive because we're going through the campaign and then it'd be like, well, I feel like I haven't really got much of this story that I've started to learn about. Yeah. So we just decided, let's park the game. The development of the game continues whilst everyone's enjoying this different game mode. But ultimately what it is just like a sped up version of progression through the game, through this tower. So you still get the core elements of gameplay. You just get it in like a real sort of compact experience.
Too, it sounds like. You get some mini bosses, some some first looks, and then you'll be able to connect those dots when it's actually go time.
So, they were sort of explaining part of the reason for the pivot is they didn't want to spoil the lore. Now, unlike a lot of these games, they're actually putting a lot of time into the story and the lore behind it. And I personally love story games. You know, part of the reason I loved some of the Assassin's Creed and other games that I've played is because of the story. I got invested in it emotionally, made me want to play more. You know, the worst thing is, especially even on TV series, when they end it on a cliffhanger, you're like, ugh. So I get not wanting to spoil it. And yeah, it just makes sense. And then, as you know, Ash was saying, or Tim, when the time comes for us to play, we're ready to go. So it feels like a bit of a win-win for everyone. But it is important to note something. So this tower mode that we're going to be in, I can't remember if it was in the Discord. I'm pretty sure it was in the Discord, in the general chat, that someone asked, and it was answered, that this is not the tower PvE mode, the normalized mode, if you will. This is something different. Now, I imagine a lot of the basic functionality will be the same in the PvE mode, but it is not that mode. And so one of the content creators, Vex, had a particular question, which I will read out to you now. Here we go. And the question was, he was asking if what we're testing is going to actually be in the game, or is it just a showcase of cool things? Now, my response to that is, you know, a lot of people are probably thinking the same thing, is not to be so narrowly focused on the tower itself, because it is just a sped up version of the game. Some of the waves that we're going to experience will likely be in a campaign stage at some point. So they're going to be wanting to know, okay, how do people get around it? Is it too hard? Is it too weak? Same with the bosses, as I alluded to earlier. You know, how do they feel? Just because we're in this tower environment doesn't take away from what we are actually testing. The combos that we're going to come across are going to be the same in game. Just because we're in a tower environment doesn't take anything away from that. You know, unless they're really busted, in which case they might not be in the game. Obviously, server load is still going to be a thing. That's something they're going to want to test. And again, just because we're in one environment does not change that. You know, the hero wording, is that right for what the ability actually does? You know, it sounds like gear grinding will be the same. However, we're just going to be in tower floors, so we're going to be testing the gear sets. You know, does this gear set perform well? Is it underperforming? Is the passive that the gear set provides pretty broken? Now, personally, straight away I thought back to that gear set of the Wolf, where if you had 6 pieces, you got a, you know, sort of stacking attack bonus for each wave. Now, that could potentially be busted if they don't program it right, through 200 floors, getting 200 times 5, 1,000% increased attack by the end of it. That'll be pretty broken, and we're going to be testing that out. Everything we do test will be key. And
it was actually it was Dan who kind of came up with this idea of, why don't we turn this into a community event and do something similar to what the guys Blizzard did with Diablo 4? Because I just think, you know, for us anyway, look, we need this information, so why don't we do it in a way that community get like a real sort of hype moment behind it? And as you were saying, Tim, content creators, rather than just, you know, I'm playing through the campaign, it'd be like, right, guys, I'm going for floor 112. We know this is a hard floor. This is the team I'm building out. It's just a different type of message when they're trying to like talk about the teams they're building. And ultimately, that's what these games are all about for me. It's like, how do I overcome the different puzzles that are in front of me? It's actually why I really love doing the free-to-play challenges, because the game's a challenge again, you know, and for Raid, that is, you know, the game becomes a challenge game for that period of time. Whereas, you know, you can be on kind of like autopilot for a lot of the time when you've been playing for a while. So yeah, I feel like it could be just quite a kind of buzzed or hyped moment for people as they start to beat those challenges, which are, you know, clearly difficult to get past.
Dan, Fiction, not just a pretty face, come up with this brilliant idea to get the community involved in this challenge. So kudos to you, good sir. But what I took away from that is it sounds like we're going to be able to stream this content and share it with you. You know, I'm stuck on floor 132, watch me tackle it today. Now, personally, I think that comes with, you know, a negative for some of the CCs, in that, you know, if you do manage to beat it, let's say you've struggled for an hour or two, and then people watch you do it, they can figure out how to do it, they already know. But that's part of the fun. But yeah, it does sound like we're going to be able to share that with everyone, and that'll be cool. So you can catch me on Twitch once I get all of the fluff stuff sorted out, overlays, and yeah, we can join in and play together. So that's the sort of feeling that I've got from that statement, and I'm really looking forward to sharing that.
I'm sure the question is not public, or the answer to this question is not public yet, but when are we talking, guys? When are we talking?
Yeah. Look, I
Over,
always get in
under
trouble because I
3
say
months.
I
Don't
say
get
a
us in
time
trouble,
and
Simon.
everyone holds
Don't
me to
get
the
us in
exact
trouble.
time.
Ash comes in here. He's like a bulldozer. He's like, I got this question for you guys.
Yeah, it's a fair question. So originally, what we were planning for the beta was end of May, and in reality, there's been a couple of systems which wouldn't have made that work anyway. So ultimately, we're probably going to be, I'd say, a month later than that. So end of June into early July to have this kind of like really polished, a great experience, to get all of the different systems we need to hook up to this to make it actually this kind of like competition and visible event rather than just something we're kind of running on a Discord server. So there's a bit more work that needs to be done, but I think it's worth the extra time. So so yeah, I mean, we're thinking probably put back to around early July, honestly, end of June, early July, with the different systems that we're trying to build into this. But all of that is guys, it depends like where we're at.
Part of me really hopes it's not early July, because I'm on a holiday the 8th, 9th, and 10th, and I really want to be part of this. Now, I'm only going to the Peak District just to escape life and go hike up some mountains and things with some friends. But notoriously, internet signal is not great up there, so I'm really hoping it's before or after that date. But we'll find out together, I suppose.
People are going to be psyched about it. Like
I just feel like it's the right direction in a number of ways. I think the community are going to be pumped to be involved in it, more pumped than they would have been for kind of like just a dry run through of the early level stuff. Because there's that kind of like challenge element. It's still a lot of fun. There's things to win, which you can then be rewarded for when we go live. So that side all kind of fits for the community side for me. And then also we still get the super valuable feedback that we're hoping for from this type of early test. And obviously, that's huge for us. There's a number of metrics which we just need to understand. At what point do people stop playing? Why are they stopping playing? How do you feel about these boss mechanics? Are they too tough? Are they too easy? Do you have enough tools to be able to overcome those things? Like all of these questions, which we think we will have answered, it completely changes when you start to get thousands of people playing a game. And suddenly it'll be like, Brad's out there designing heroes and thinking that he's done a good job of balancing. He won't have realized that this common alongside this legendary combo is absolutely super OP, because you just can't test every single combination, and you think you've got a nicely balanced game, and then suddenly there'll be 2 or 3 people in the community that just come out with something and you're like,
guess what I found?
That's
and you're
nuts.
like,
That's the cool part from your perspective, though. As a game designer, like it's almost, I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Brad, but like it's going to be fun to see people, okay, you've created all this. Now let's see what people can do. Can they break it?
There we go. So as a member of the community, yes, I'm disappointed it's being pushed back. We all are. I've seen it in the general Discord already. Some people being a bit more passionate with their disappointment. But ultimately, this is for the best. We would all rather have a better product that's, less buggy, that we can enjoy, than them rushing it out in 4 weeks' time and we're all wondering why it's not complete. This tower mode sounds really exciting. I can't wait to get involved. And as, Ash, Tim said there, to break the game as well. That's part of these... part of what these alphas are, because let's be honest, it's going to be more like an alpha. It's part of the reason that we take part in these alphas, to have fun breaking things, whether that's if you click the start button on the menu a million times, what happens kind of thing, as opposed to just hero testing. It's going to be testing everything. So super looking forward to it. I appreciate the Fateless team working hard. It's not easy for them, especially with some of the negative feedback that comes with naturally sharing this stuff early, but I'm appreciative of it. Keep up the good work. And then to everyone else watching, thank you for watching and hanging out with me and listening to my opinions on things. Take care, look after yourselves, work hard, but as always, play harder, and I'll see you in another one soon. Cheers.